About a month ago, my parents decided to host a family dinner on my husband's birthday weekend. So we obviously assumed that this would be something to celebrate his birthday. But on the day of the thing, they did not even acknowledge it. There was no cake, not even his parents were there. And we were quite taken aback because we really thought that this was going to be some sort of surprise for him, since this is his first birthday after marriage. He was also quite confused that he didn't say anything throughout the evening, so I decided to pull my parents aside after one point in time, and I asked them what was going on, and then they explained to me that they had decided to host this dinner party with just us, so my husband could celebrate his birthday. But the reason that they were not acknowledging it was because it was also my sister's wedding anniversary, literally the next day. So these two events were too close. And so they had decided not to acknowledge his birthday, but just host the family dinner together so my husband doesn't feel completely left out. It was a ridiculous thing to do because my sister is a grown woman. She should not be feeling insecure about sharing her anniversary weekend with my husband's birthday. Nobody's stealing her thunder or whatever. And I even tried to explain that to my parents, but they said that the dinner was already almost done. So there was no need to bring it all up and spoil things now. And I knew that there was no point in discussing this with them any further. So my husband and I had dessert in peace, and I was very quiet after that. I hardly spoke to my parents or my sister for the rest of the evening. And my husband and I left quite quickly. On the way home, I explained everything to him, and he finally knew why there was no cake and nobody even mentioned his birthday being on the same day as the family dinner. He was quite upset because even if he kept all of that aside, he couldn't understand why my family couldn't even invite his parents, which is literally the bare minimum that they could have done. And all of this was just because they did not want to take away from the fact that the next day was my sister's anniversary party, and she was hosting it in a pretty big way, like she does every year. Both of us were quite unhappy with all of this, and we started to plan a birthday party for him, but instead, we decided that instead of having a party, we were going to take a vacation. It would be a well-deserved break because we had both been working hard for quite a while, and we hadn't even splurged on our wedding, so we deserved this. And so the very next week, we were off to Italy together. We didn't end up attending my sister's anniversary party the next day, and it's not like anybody missed us there either because she didn't ask us why we were not there, and neither did my parents. Some of my relatives asked out of curiosity, and I told them that I was sick, so I couldn't make it. So there was no harm done, and later when we returned from Italy, we decided that we were going to go low contact with my family for a while because what they did was not nice, especially considering the fact that this was my husband's first birthday as a part of our family. It was just weird. Obviously, it's not like we would have minded if they did not host anything at all, but for them to invite us over for dinner on his birthday, it obviously created an impression that they're going to do something for him. So we were expecting things, and then they didn't live up to any of it, and instead they were quite petty about the whole thing. That's why we were lying low. But that did not stop my parents from contacting me a couple of days back, not to ask me why I hadn't spoken to them properly or visited them, but only to tell me that they needed money. And it's not even they who need the money, to be fair. It's my sister and her husband. Earlier this year, my sister and her husband bought a house, and they've been paying off the installments, and they're on their last installment, but they're falling short of a certain amount. They asked my parents, but my parents declined because my dad is about to retire in a couple of months. And then they decided that instead of helping them out on their own, they were going to ask me and my husband, and obviously I declined because it's a pretty significant amount. It's not a joke. And I've never expected any sort of financial help from my parents or even my sister. So I don't understand why they felt so comfortable asking me for this kind of money, especially after what had happened with my husband's birthday dinner. I didn't want to help them out at all, to be honest. So I told them that I was not interested in helping and they would have to look for some other way to make it work and pay off the debts. And because I said no, my parents started telling me that I was being selfish, and they even brought up the fact that I hadn't even attended my sister's anniversary party, even though back then they hadn't said anything. They said that I was drifting away from my family, and all of a sudden they started accusing my husband for it and saying that he must be isolating me from them and turning me against them somehow. They told me I should be their priority because I'm their real family, and even brought up how my husband and I were being so ungrateful by refusing to pull together some money and help them out, especially after my parents had gone out of their way to celebrate my husband's birthday so nicely last month itself. And that was what really got under my skin. So then I ended up doing something very petty. I decided to hang up on them. And then I started putting together and calculating the amount that my husband and I had spent on our Italy trip. And due to some very cool coincidence, it was just around the amount of money that my sister needed for her house. So I decided to take a screenshot of that, the calculations and the final amount, and I sent that to my parents. They had been trying to call me back and kept texting me, telling me to pick up the phone. But I had ignored all of that. And then about 20 minutes later, I sent them that picture, saying that I was so sorry that I couldn't help them out. But because they had let me down with the way they had celebrated my husband's birthday, I had to make it up to him with this trip to Italy. And so I couldn't help them out. And if they wanted somebody to blame, they should just look into the mirror, because if they had been listening to my husband and acknowledged his birthday, instead of being petty and childish, then maybe none of this would be happening at all. And I would have gladly helped out my sister, but now they're on their own. That was really petty. I know that. But to be honest, they started it. They are the ones who were petty by refusing to acknowledge or do anything special for my husband's birthday, even after inviting us over for dinner, just because my sister's anniversary happened to be the next day. After acting like that, I don't know why they even expected help from me. And honestly, it's not like they were even acting like they needed my help. They were all acting like they were entitled to my money somehow, and I can't deal with that kind of behavior. So I lost my cool and I ended up doing this petty thing, and it really made everyone very upset. My parents are telling me that I need to apologize to them because this was unacceptable, and my sister has also finally reached out to me, something that she hadn't done so far, saying that I took it way too far and I really need to apologize and mean it. But I don't know. I don't really feel very sorry for what I did. And I spoke to my husband about it as well. We discussed it, and he told me that he doesn't see any reason for me to apologize either. Because of the way they were acting with me, the things that my parents had said, they were not that nice about it either. So it was just me returning the favor, nothing else. I think he's right, but even then, aita for refusing to help my parents and my sister with money to pay off their house debt? Update 1. Hi, thank you so much for all the comments. I'm especially happy about the ones that basically just lauded my pettiness. I was feeling a bit skeptical about what I had done because honestly, this is not the kind of person I am. But that's under normal circumstances, and this was not normal. In fact, I can't even imagine why my parents were behaving like this. I know that my sister is somebody who they have a soft corner for, but this is too much. She's a grown woman. I really don't think that any of this was necessary at all. She's been the clear favorite with my parents while we were growing up, and I've never had a problem with it. We used to get along quite well ourselves until recently, but then, for whatever reason, after she got married, she really changed as a person. It's been 3 years now, and she's been quite distant from me. She doesn't talk to me as much, and she has become a lot more self-centered. She's changed, and not for the better. But I'm fine with it because I have my husband by my side, so I don't really care. Anyway, my point is that neither of these people have any right to expect anything from me, least of all an apology. They had been bothering me non-stop ever since I sent them that screenshot, and I couldn't deal with that. So I've just muted all notifications coming from them. Now they can't get on my nerves, even if they want to. I haven't blocked them yet because I think that will be going way too far. And to be honest, I don't think it's the done thing in this situation. After all, there might be some sort of emergency, and I would like to know in spite of our differences at the moment. So I haven't blocked them, but they are on thin ice. As for the money, I don't know how they're going to arrange that, but it's not my problem anyway. Like I said, in the beginning itself, I have literally never depended on them for any sort of financial help. So it's very strange to me that they were acting entitled about receiving money from me in the first place. It's not even like my husband and I are wealthier than them. I'd say that we are pretty much on the same level financially. So I don't know. The expectation that they had was pretty strange and didn't make any sense to me. But then again, none of their behavior lately has made any sense to me, so here we are. Now, I'd like to address something that everybody had a lot of questions about. So, my husband and I have been together for the past 4 years, and we got married earlier this year, which means that we've known each other and our families for quite a while. And obviously my sister has been married for a lot longer than I have, which means that she's celebrated quite a few wedding anniversary parties every year. But it was never a problem until this year. The thing is, after we got married, he became a part of this family as well. Usually what would happen on his birthdays is that we would invite his family, his friends, my family were always invited, but they would never show up. And they had their excuse that the very next day, my sister would be celebrating her anniversary party, so they needed to get some rest because it was always a huge thing. And my husband never minded either, nor did I. Even this year, we were planning on doing the same thing, but our plans were disrupted because my parents decided to call us and invite us over to their home. And we just assumed that it would be to celebrate his birthday because they made it sound like that. They literally said it would be a family dinner party, and they used the word party. So what else were we supposed to assume? In the week before my husband's birthday, if my parents decide to call us up and invite us over for a dinner party, be it for the family or otherwise, we are obviously going to assume that it's a surprise party for him. I thought it was a no-brainer, but they did not even acknowledge the fact of his birthday. And he's not a child. It's not that important for him for his birthday to be celebrated with a lot of pomp and show and extravagance. But what my parents did, that was just weird and insulting. And that was the problem that we had with it, because if they hadn't called us and invited us over, we would have just done what we do every year, and it wouldn't have been a problem for any of us. I don't know why they chose this year to be so petty and weird about the whole thing, but I don't like it, and I think that my anger is completely justified. And I don't know if my sister was aware of any of this, or if she was a part of this whole thing, but as far as I'm concerned, they are all in the same boat for me. So they are on one side right now, and I'm on the other, and that's how things are. And to be very honest, I don't feel bad about it either, because given the relationship that I've had with them since pretty much forever, I knew that this was bound to happen at some point in time. It's not surprising. Update 2. Hey, so it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and like I said, I've had practically no contact with my family. I muted all messages and phone calls from them so they couldn't disturb me even if they wanted to. Surprisingly though, they didn't try that hard either. I thought they would be bent on receiving an apology from me and wouldn't let it go until I said I was sorry, regardless of whether I meant it or not. That didn't happen, and I was kind of relieved until today. Today I received a phone call from one of my aunts, and she and I are quite close. I'm closer to my dad's side of the family, and this is my dad's youngest cousin that I'm talking about. So she called me up and she started telling me that my parents have apparently been talking about me to everybody in the family and have been crying about how I have been taken away from them and brainwashed by my husband, and I refuse to speak to them anymore. Everyone has been sympathizing with them, which finally makes sense because this is why they were not wasting their time trying to convince me to feel bad about what I did. They were too busy bad-mouthing me to everybody else to have any time for this kind of thing. Anyway, my aunt told me that they are literally going out of their way to reach out to people, telling them that they need to talk to me and bring me back to my senses because I've been ignoring them. And they don't think that there is any other way to get through to me other than having the entire family rally in my favor, bringing me away from my husband. Today they reached out to my aunt, and that was a big mistake because she obviously told me everything. They know that I'm very close with her, so they should have also known that she was going to tell me things, or maybe they did know, and they just wanted me to know what they were up to. I honestly don't know what their intentions were, but I just realized that whatever they have been doing, it's not nice. Everything finally adds up because I have been receiving a lot of messages from my family, checking in on me, telling me that they would like to see me, and I thought they were just being polite. Honestly, I didn't take enough note of it to see that things were a bit different. I completely missed what was happening right under my nose. But now I know, and I'm not going to let this go. My husband and I have already spoken about it, and we have decided that we are going to address this with the rest of my family instead of wasting our time speaking to my parents, because clearly there's no point talking to them anymore. The things they have been up to are beyond ridiculous. I don't even know what to say to them anymore, so I'm just not even going to bother. Update 3. So in my last update, I spoke about what my parents had been up to, and I mentioned what I was going to do to deal with the situation, but honestly, my husband and I had no idea how we were going to go about it. We are not the kind of people who post a lot on social media. We are not very active on that platform, and we didn't want to air our dirty linen in public. So that was a huge problem because we didn't know any other way to get through to everyone else. However, thanks to my aunt, we got an idea of how to deal with it and talk to everybody at once. She created a group text and added basically everybody who she thought would have been contacted by my parents and told us to go ahead and say whatever we had to. So we did. We explained the whole situation to them. We poured our hearts out, and I made it very clear to them that my husband was not the villain and that my parents were making him out to be. And it's a pretty serious allegation to claim that my husband is isolating me from my family, because we know what that amounts to. It's not a funny little joke that they are making here. It's disgusting and not cool at all. Anyway, we spoke about the incident and what led to all of this, and people said they had no idea that any of this had happened. Everyone apologized for believing my parents, even though they haven't exactly done anything wrong. And I don't really blame them, because if I was in their place, I probably would have believed the same thing, because I would think that my parents would lie. So I told them that I don't blame them. But now I would just want them to ignore anything that my parents say about me or my husband, because they have no idea what they're talking about. I didn't tell them to cut ties with my parents or anything because I think that would be taking things way too far. And I think that this is a personal choice people should be making. I don't want to have any sort of say in any of this. It's not my place to dictate who they should be talking to and who they shouldn't. I just wanted to share my side of things, and that's what I did. After this, I don't know what will happen. But I hope my parents don't get all up in my business, because I know that if they find out about this group text and whatever I've said, which I think they inevitably will, they definitely aren't going to be happy about it. So let's see what happens after all this. Update 4. So it's been a couple of days since I sent that message explaining everything that has happened to the group text for the rest of the family. After that, I did not say anything there. I did not even tell them that they shouldn't be talking to my parents or anything of the sort, like I mentioned in my last update. But even then, my parents had a problem with the fact that I decided to make that group and address things in the first place, even though they are the ones who started all of this. So I don't understand why they are so bent on pretending to be the victims in this situation when they created all of this themselves. Anyway, today in the morning, I received a call from my mom, and she used a different number to call me because clearly by now she has realized that I am not going to respond to her. So it was an unknown number, and I picked it up, and I really shouldn't have, because as soon as I did, she started screaming in my face. She started telling me that whatever I was doing, I needed to put an end to it, and I couldn't just involve the rest of the family in this because a lot of people were not talking about them anymore. But I'm assuming that somebody must have been talking to them, because otherwise they wouldn't have found out about any of it. But anyway, I didn't bring that up because it was not relevant. Somebody is definitely on their side. It's not like everybody's against them, but instead of bringing that up, I just told them that they started all of this. So they should own up to the consequences of their own actions. They can't just pretend that they are victims all the time. That's not how things work. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who started bad-mouthing me first. Not just me. They dragged my husband into this as well for no reason, even though he has been nothing but nice to them this whole time. So they have been unfair to both of us. All we did was set the record straight so that the rest of the family could come to their own conclusions, and these conclusions would be fair to all of us. I did not make up anything in the text that I sent, and that they could not disagree with. I have been very honest and truthful, and if the truth makes them look bad, then that's really not my problem, is it? But my mom was just not having it. She kept telling me that I had to delete that group and that I had to apologize because I deleted it, saying that I shouldn't have shared all this and that I had been making everything up because I was upset with my parents for some reason, and that I take it all back. And I found that a ridiculous expectation to have from me, especially after everything that's happened. We haven't been on good terms for quite some time now, so why would I pretend I made all of it up and take it back? Just to preserve their image and reputation? Yeah, I'm not doing that. And I said this to my mom, and she freaked out. She started telling me I was betraying the family, that I was betraying their trust in me, and that she was very disappointed, as if I cared. I told her she had betrayed me first, but she was not having it. She hung up on me, and I thought that that would be the end of it. But then a couple of hours later, once I got home from work, my parents and my sister were waiting for me outside the door. My husband was already there, and he was arguing with my parents. And from the looks of it, he probably just got there a couple of minutes before I did, because he was trying to explain the same things I had. And yet they were just not in any mood to listen. They wanted to be the victims here, so they were going to do their best to make it seem like they were. And they had already wasted a lot of my time during the day while I was at work. And I was not about to allow them to take over more of my time back home. So I made it very clear to them that they could either clear out or I would call the cops, and they would be forced to scram, and things would be pretty ugly then. Obviously then my mom started emotionally manipulating me, saying that I wouldn't call the cops on my own parents because we are family and we could just sort things out. If I was just open to whatever they were saying, then we could clear the air between all of us and we could pretend like none of this ever even happened. I told her that I did not want to pretend this did not happen because it did happen. And I wanted to remember this because this just goes to show how badly they have treated me. Not just recently, but all my life. They've always prioritized my sister, and even now things have not changed. But I have changed. I'm not going to put up with this kind of thing anymore. I'm done forgiving everything just because we are family. If we are family, then they should start treating me like it. So I made it very clear to them that they could either leave or I would make the cops force them to clear out. It was their choice. And thankfully, in the end, grumbling and whining about everything, they left. So that was how I had to deal with the situation. And I wouldn't say that it ended in an ideal way, but honestly, there's nothing much I can do here because I'm sick of them. Like I said, I have tried my best to be a good daughter and be a good sister, and it has not paid off the way I thought it would. Now, I'm just done. The only people that I'm going to prioritize are the ones who prioritize me. And that includes my husband, a couple of family members, and my friends. Other than that, I'm not going to care for anybody who doesn't care for me. And that's it. Update 5. Hi, so it's been a year since my last update, and I have some pretty good news. A couple of weeks ago, I found out I was pregnant. It's great news for both me and my husband because we have been trying for a baby for a couple of months. And we are very happy that now we're going to complete our little family. I posted about it last evening on social media. I made the announcement and my sister reached out to me to congratulate me, but my parents didn't. And I thanked her for it. I was cordial with her even though we haven't spoken in a year. As for my parents, I don't have any expectations from them. Neither did I have any expectations from my sister, but then I'm thankful that she did congratulate me because it's an olive branch for sure. As for myself, I'm pretty happy with where I am in my life right now. No complaints. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.